With the release of the intense and action-packed Chapter 5 of Poppy Playtime, we learn much about the prototype, its mysterious origins, and connection to both Poppy and Elliot, and its actions within Playtime Co. And this information made me decide to go back and speculate what the Jester of Playtime could have said to the other bigger bodies to influence them to participate in a bloody hour of joy. Like most of the other bigger bodies and experiments, I believe the catalyst for the prototype enlisting Huggy was the promise of freedom from Playtime Co.'s cruelty and mistreatment. This promise for freedom would hit home for Huggy with his treatment during his reconditioning and his brief taste of freedom during his escape, only fueling his desire for both liberation and revenge against Playtime Co. Jumping next to Mummy Longlegs, I think the prototype would play on both Mummy's hatred for the scientists within Playtime Co. and her affectionate nature towards children, with the Jester coming to Mummy with the promise of helping the orphans escape any more harm at Playtime's hands, with this getting Mummy on board for the hour of joy. With Catnap, I believe the prototype didn't have to do much to convince Catnap to participate in the brutal massacre, seeing as Catnap likely already viewed the Jester as their savior and a god, with the prototype only having to point the demented cat in the right direction and let him loose. Much like Yarnaby, given how animalistic and monstrous Boxy Boo was, I think the prototype wouldn't have to do much to convince the murderous Jack-in-the-Box, with Boxy simply being let out of containment, likely being enough for him to join in the chaos. However, it could also be possible that the Jester promised Boxy multiple people to consume, with this getting Boxy to cooperate. Like previously stated with Boxy, the prototype likely wouldn't have to do much to enlist Yarnaby for the hour of joy, with an interesting promise the Jester could have made being that Yarnaby would be able to see Harley Sawyer again, with this possibly being enough for him to comply. Given how Panasaurus sees the world in a much more innocent light than what is actually happening, I believe the prototype could have used this to his advantage, making the dino see the scientists as either people who don't want to hear his music, similar to how he saw Doey after he was kicked out of Safe Haven, or as people who wanted to join his band, upon which all the Jester needed to do was release him from containment for the hour. Next, with Preston Willard and the other conspirators that helped kick off the Hour of Joy, I believe the prototype likely told them that once the experiments were put to an end, the orphans would be able to go free and live a normal life away from the brutality of Playtime Co., with the Jester likely not revealing his true plans for the massacre of a company's employees, with the conspirators being included in this kill list, a fact they would learn all too late. Just like the other bigger bodies, it's likely that Miss Delight and her sisters were swayed to the prototype's side by the promise of freedom from Playtime Co.'s horrible mistreatment of them. And given what we see with Lily Lovebraids in Chapter 5, it could be possible that Miss Delight's imprisonment in the school by Catnap after the hour was something orchestrated by the prototype, with the Jester wanting to both force further cooperation and compliance out of the teacher and likely weaken her in an effort to protect the remaining orphans. Finally, with the non-bigger bodies experiments, we see that they joined the prototype's rebellion with the same promise of liberation of the cruelty and tyranny that was Playtime Co., with several tapes showing how they despised the employees at the factory, such as their confrontation with Miss Gracie. However, after the hour, some of these toys would grow disillusioned with the Jester, upon which the prototype would then rule through fear, killing any toy who defies his rule over the factory, as evident from the interrogation tape seen in Chapter 5.
Please, I don't know what you want! I don't know anything about it! previous knowledge of this?
I don't! Remember, the cost for a lie is...
Dora,
After the hour, just after, it was Gentle John and some of the others. They were afraid of you. They wanted to go.
where are they hiding? Plane hair?
Game station.
Factories?
I look after you.
All of you. You can tell me.
They're gone! I'm sorry! They went to the outside. They left.
Who else knows?
It was just rumors.
Who knows? I require
Roxy! Titi! Tomogo Turtle.
and you.
What?
You know, and no one can know.
I am sorry.